Hey, it's Kyle here, and today I'll be reviewing Mark Twain by Ron Chernow. I know it's my tradition on this channel, a lot of times I hold up the book for my entire review. This is a very big book, very thick, very heavy. I do not feel like holding it up the entire time, so you won't be getting that in today's video. Ron Chernow is one of my favorite nonfiction authors. I absolutely love him. I've read a few of his books. Hamilton is my favorite. Read that years before it became a musical. I was shocked when it became a musical. I was like, this is not going to work. It worked, but that book is amazing. The Washington bio is really interesting. The John Rockefeller bio is very interesting. I've always enjoyed all his books. So when I heard that he was doing a biography on Mark Twain, I was super excited. I've always found Mark Twain a very interesting and fascinating figure. I've enjoyed a lot of his writing. So I was very interested to see what Chernow would do with a bio for Mark Twain. I actually took this book with me on vacation. I thought it'd be a good time. I'd have a lot of free time at the beach, and this book is over 1,000 pages. I was like, you know, if I just was reading this at home after work and stuff like this, it'd probably take me several weeks to get through on vacation. I was like, oh, this will help me plow through this book a little bit quicker. And I actually did enjoy it as a vacation read. Now, that being said, I think I started it halfway through my vacation at the beach. And 3 or 4 days at the beach was not enough to finish this book. I did have to finish it when I got home. But it was an interesting read. If I compare it to his other books, I think actually those three I just mentioned, I'd actually put Twain at the bottom of those. Still enjoyed it, I just didn't think it was as great as some of these others, especially not as great as the Hamilton one. Now there was parts of the Mark Twain bio that I really enjoyed a lot. There were other parts that were interesting, but were not as fun to read about. Mark Twain, in several parts of his life, is honestly kind of depressing and dark, and those are not as fun, but they were still, obviously they need to be in there, and they were still interesting. My biggest thing with why I kind of rank it lower than the other ones is I feel like this book was a lot longer than it needed to be. Like I mentioned, it was over 1,000 pages, and there's certain parts of the book where it feels like the same thing is kind of repeated over and over again, like certain points about kind of drawing conclusions about Mark Twain's life or how things impacted him or why he was doing what he was doing. And I almost feel like, you know, it's like I said, it's over 1,000 pages. I feel like this could have easily been about 850, 900 pages, and you would still got all the info you needed, but there would have been parts of the book that would have felt as repetitive. And when you're reading a book this long, when stuff starts to feel repetitive, you're like, oh, I'm trying to make progress. This is slowing me down. I feel like I've already read this same point being made, you know, 3 times in the last 50 pages. Do I have to really read it again? So that was my biggest complaint about the book. Other than that, I really enjoyed it. I would say I learned a lot about Mark Twain that I didn't know. Not surprisingly, with a biography about Mark Twain, who's so famous for his funny quotes and just being such a humorous guy. Lots of, you know, laugh out loud lines from Mark Twain. Very interesting aspects of his life I did not know about. It was very interesting to read about his writing process and how that worked and what he drew for inspiration for his various books and stories that he wrote. Things that he wrote then basically never published his entire life until after he passed away, and why those were not published. His political activities, what he believed, how his views on the world changed over the course of his life. And honestly, his family. I didn't really know a whole lot about his family life, his wife, his kids. He has a really dark second half of his life. A lot of things go wrong for him. It really shapes him a lot. I think it really definitely impacts how he lives and kind of has a more unusual lifestyle after that. But he had so many tragedies throughout his life. It's actually amazing. He stayed remotely sane throughout his life. A little fun factoid you learn about. I think when you think of Mark Twain, you kind of think of him wearing that white suit. And that's the thing that pops in my mind. One of the things I really found interesting in reading this book is like he did not really start wearing those until really late in his life. Most of his life that was not his signature style. I just assumed he kind of wore that most of his time that he's a famous author. He did not. I knew he had traveled around the world a lot. I did not realize how much he traveled around the world and how highly regarded he is around the world during his own lifetime. His interaction with other famous people, writers, celebrities, political leaders, was really, really fascinating. But like I said, when you get the second half of the book that delves a lot when his writing career starts to slow down a little bit, and you deal with his family life and the tragedies he faces with his wife and his daughters, it is, I'll just warn you, because I think when you're like, oh, I'm going to read about Mark Twain, you're like, oh, this is going to be funny and entertaining. It is an entertaining read, but parts of the book, especially this family stuff, gets very dark and can be depressing. So just a little warning there. So if you enjoy reading nonfiction, and really long nonfiction books do not scare you away, I do think you'll enjoy this book by Chernow. If you find Mark Twain interesting, I think you'll enjoy this. If you typically are not a big nonfiction fan, or even if you like nonfiction, but like really, really big nonfictions, you're getting the 800, 900,000 pages, this is probably not the book for you. Because I've read some really long nonfiction books that when you read them, it's like, that didn't really feel like that long. It went really quickly. This is not one of these books. This is a 1,000-page book that very much feels like a 1,000-page book. So I just want to warn you on that. But I would say it is still worth a read. I think Mark Twain is a very important figure in American history. I think a lot of people just know the basics of, and I think this book does a great job of giving you a well-rounded view of why Mark Twain was important, what he accomplished in his life, what his positive sides of his life were, and what were the negative parts of it. So overall, like I said, it gets a thumbs up for me. Is it my favorite book by Ron Chernow? No. Did I still really enjoy it and find it interesting? Yes. So I definitely would recommend you read Mark Twain by Ron Chernow. Let me know in the comments section below, what is your favorite Chernow book and why? If you enjoyed this review, please hit the like button. If you haven't, please subscribe to the channel. I really appreciate it. Thanks for watching. I'll see you the next time, and happy reading.